Welcome back. Many thanks for staying with us. You're watching Daybreak on this 27th day of May 2021. Now, it's no secret that the next general election is about 14 months or so away. And we're seeing a lot of unrest in regions, in political parties, allies looking like they might become foes. I mean, so much is happening. A clear sign that the political class is firmly focused on the next election. But what might we see in the coming days? That's the discussion we want to have right now. 22422 is the SMS line. Hashtag is Daybreak. But remember, a bit later on, we'll also be switching our focus to that National Prayer Breakfast. And we'll be live from there. We have a team there already getting ready to talk to us and to tell us what we can expect. So keep it Citizen TV for that as well a bit later on in the program. Let me introduce my guest nevertheless. Once again, we have a Member of Parliament, Caleb Kositany, joining us on the program. Thanks for making time this morning. We also have Nyando, Member of Parliament, Jared Okelo, asante sana as well. And Kimani Wamatangi, the Senator for Kiambu County, joins us this morning. Senator, welcome. And Senator, I think, let me just start with you and refer you to the front page of the Standard. We can put that up. Rumble in Mount Kenya, already looking beyond President Uhuru Kenyatta's final term in office. A vicious power struggle has erupted amongst top politicians in the vote-rich Mount Kenya region as leaders position themselves for higher political offices in next year's succession elections. And just before we came on air, one of the other panelists, Senator, asked why you were not in this meeting.
In this group.
Maybe we'll start there.
No, I thought you were going to start with these two gentlemen. Is that where they go wrong? Is that where they go wrong? I can correct them.
No, they believe because you have classified information. I think that's where they want you to begin.
You know, Ihiga, first, good morning.
Good morning to you.
Let me say morning to our viewers. And also, I'm happy that Caleb finally comes to join us after roaming out and about. We saw him in Western, where he did very well, trying to capture some few seats there. And of course, now he's here. So I wanted to, he's my good friend, so I wanted to welcome him.
Looks like Matangi had missed me.
And because, you said we are going for National Prayer Breakfast, and indeed I'll be there myself. So I would want to just limit myself to saying very good things this morning, so that my prayers can reach. Now, but Wahiga, on the question of Mount Kenya, first, I don't know why there is that misconception that that just by the fact that we saw Justin Muturi going for his, for his coronation, and the rituals and everything that he did, and then this team coming up yesterday, I don't understand why that is perceived to be a split. There is absolutely no split. What I can say, for people to understand from where I stand as Mount Kenya, is that you expect that now that we are heading towards the elections in 2022, there has been that perception all along that the people of Mount Kenya have not come out to, congregate, talk, front anyone, and show like they have one person that has been picked. And of course, that also has been simmering within politicians themselves, Wahiga. And that's why you find, for example, like this group would come out yesterday and say, we are still there. But I believe, one, to put facts right, I don't think that constitutes a split within the thinking and intentions of the people of Mount Kenya. Number two, I don't think that there is anything wrong with it. I mean, because they are elected leaders. They have a right to put their minds together and air the views on behalf of the people they represent. And number three, that does not mean that it is the end of people speaking. I can assure you, Wahiga, you're going to see many
what do you think
within the region?
Yes, before I allow Caleb to come in, what is the end game of these consultative talks?
Well,
what's the end game of the coronation of Speaker Justin Muturi? Where is all this headed to?
No, I believe what people are attempting to do now is to start off so that on and on we'll get people now closing ranks, coming in together, and eventually you will find that everybody is going to be on the same page. And I want to assure you about one thing about Mount Kenya region.
What page is that?
There is not one single day when Mount Kenya ever split. And this time we will not. We have currently the elected president, Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, and he has a term to serve until 2022. And what we have been very cautious to do is to ensure that we give him all the support that is necessary for him to serve until the end of the term.
Okay.
Now, come 2022, when the elections are called, it is important as we close to that day that there will be discussions, there will be dialogue, and people then can have a way forward, just like everybody else. And we'll be saying, when it comes to the discussions on where we'll be, supposing, for example, the BBI passes, you know, if it is reintroduced, or even if it doesn't, where are the people of Mount Kenya going to be? That is a discourse we must have.
Okay.
You asked why wasn't I there? I was busy in Parliament, but I'm going to be somewhere very soon.
You're going to be somewhere very soon.
Very
I want
soon.
to hear about that.
You're going to be seeing me somewhere
Caleb,
very soon.
what's your reading of this situation?
Well, Wahiga, I think there is nothing wrong with leaders meeting, whether they are elected or they were elected at one time and lost during an election. There is nothing wrong. But the content, what did they discuss? That is where the issue is. I heard one of the leaders who met yesterday saying you will soon see who the real Mount Kenya leaders are. And that is a statement that is actually disparaging other leaders who are currently in office, Matangi included. And forgive me if I call you Matiangi at one stage because names are similar. So it's the content of their discussion. The second thing that came out from their discussion is these are leaders who are still stuck in the tribal pool. They are still there saying, we, the people of Mount Kenya region, we need to be somewhere, we need to decide. The other thing that I quoted from this meeting is that these people don't believe that the common person, Wanjiku, can make a decision and a good decision. They don't believe that where Mount Kenya people seem to be heading now, in terms of if the by-elections, the recent by-election is anything to go by, they don't believe it's the right direction because they're not there, because they're not the ones leading the route that the people have taken. So you could tell that they feel that they're the ones going to decide how the mountain is going to vote. And it is politics, and that is how politics is. But I think they face an uphill task. The common Mwananchi has moved away from I want my person in power. They want a person in power who will change their lives. And we have seen that across the board, Kenyans have suffered. Kenyans have gone through a lot of hard times during this period of this regime, irrespective of who the tribe of the president. Kenyans have suffered across the board. And I think that has enlightened Kenyans that it really doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be your tribesmate that is in power, but it has to be a leader who can transform change. And once you transform change, you will not transform change for one community, you transform change for the entire nation. And so I think that is the discussion these leaders should have had.
Are you saying then that the leaders' meetings are efforts in futility? That
I believe it's an effort in futility because they are taking the tribal route, which Kenyans have moved away from, including the people of Mount Kenya.
Senator Matangi says you might see him in one of those meetings soon. Anyway, we'll find out which one he's talking about. Honorable Jared Okello, thanks for making time for us this morning. And I know there's a lot happening around Madaraka Day. We are coming to that shortly. But first, let me get your reading of this situation. Are you surprised to see these rumbles in Mount Kenya?
Well, thank you very much, Wahiga. It's good to see you back on this show. Yeah. Thank you. Well, today is an important day that parliamentarians will be retreating to pray. It has been an annual event, but this is more significant that for the first time we are going into prayers without the co-chair who lost his life about 2-3 months ago, Honorable Paul Koinange. So this will also be an important occasion to reflect on what he has done for this country, for the people of Kiambaa, and most importantly for the National Prayer Breakfast, where he did play a pivotal role. Back to your question, the Mount Kenya. Mount Kenya seems to be under some bit of unrest and disquiet. And this could have been occasioned by two things. But the most important thing is what we are reading from the entire structure is that Mount Kenya is beholden to no one. And they have created a sense of entitlement. And that is why it becomes very difficult for them to internalize the fact that a different political outfit from a different region or a different presidential candidate can fit the bill. So that is exactly what we are reading from all this. But the disquiet is...
do you have any specifics? Or you've been general, a different political outfit, different region. Do you have any specifics on?
Well, the specifics is, you know, since the advent of multi-party politics in the year 1992, all the time to date, we haven't seen Mount Kenya voting outside that precinct, okay? We have people from where I come from, Nyanza, who have, you know, gone beyond Nyanza and voted, even people from Mount Kenya region, to the last man. So, but we haven't seen this reciprocal from the Mount Kenya region. So that is exactly what I'm talking about. But, you know, this is orchestrated by President Kenyatta exiting the stage next year. And there seems to be a lack of preparedness in terms of who takes over from the Mount Kenya region. Because, again, our politics is still reeling towards you know, regional as opposed to the national acclaim, which we ought to have. That is why my brother and friend, Honorable Wamatangi, will be presenting his candidature, I believe, but he has spoken about it, in the nearest future. Because
for what post? For senator again?
Oh, well, he's running to become president. Okay. It's interesting that I'm the only one who knows this.
Yes. Honorable Kositani has not, seems not to be aware of the intelligence you have.
But all these are not out of happenstance, you know, and not coincidental. So they have been put into place. But this has been awoken by two events. One is the by-elections that we recently held. By-elections proved to them that people from different regions can come into your region and control the politics of that place. That we saw it happening in Rori Ward in Nyandarua, where UDA, the smallest party in the world, you know, clinched a seat in Nyandarua. That is how we saw Juja going to PEP, a party that I realized when that guy won. You know, I've never known about PEP and affiliated to none other than Moses Kuria. You know, so these are events that are awakening the Mount Kenya region. And they're saying, you know, it is high time we stepped back, reflected further, and retooled as a region so that we confront the political issues as they come. But again, the second element is the coronation of the Speaker, Honorable Justin Muturi, as the Mount Kenya region spokesperson. He started by going through the Njurinjeke clan of the smaller Meru community, but realizing that there was a bigger stake and a bigger chance elsewhere, he has spread his tentacles and is now the spokesperson of Mount Kenya region, even though other people, such as the ones that we have seen on television, do not want to accept that because perhaps they were not consulted, or maybe they are looking at Honorable Muturi not to be aligned to their political cause. But when you hear leaders bandishing numbers, you know, dropping numbers, then that tells you that they reckon that Honorable Muturi comes from the smallest of, you know, tribal groupings within the Mount Kenya region. And that is absurd, Wahiga, because a country where individual capacity ought to be at the center stage, not to the detriment of your political grouping. But when you hear them say, you know, our numbers are going to matter, you know, you cannot set aside 8 million votes, you know, that tells you that they have, you know, retreated to that political regional cocoonism, which we need to run away from.
Which makes me wonder what sort of politics we are in, what level of politicking we've reached at as a country. And you've raised an interesting point there, Honorable Okello. I'll come back to you for that. But Senator Matangi, you had said you wanted to hear from your other panelists first. That you have had.
Yes, so that I can...
They've spoken about by-elections, PEP. Someone has called our party the smallest party in the world.
It's called UDA.
You'll respond to that, but Senator, you begin.
Let's start from some of the basics, which are true and irrefutable. First, you know, Wahiga, all politics is local. And so when you see those leaders coalesce, talk about Kenya region, indeed it is recognized even in our constitution. That's our infrastructure of our architecture of society and communities. And so all along, and my brother Jared and also Kostani know, if you look at our electioneering, our Higa from 1992, the way to go, the way it has been and the way it will be, is that elections now are going to be won by people who want, formate, and coalesce along with other communities. And that's why elections from now onwards are not going to be won by any person who goes it alone. You will have to build coalitions within with other communities. And so as a community yourself, you have to get neat, organized, sorted out before you approach the others. And that's a good thing to do. And I believe that within the Mount Kenya region, we have interests that we also want to present at the table of talks. When people sit at that national discussion and we say, we as the people, and I want to allow me to correct this impression that every time when we speak, that we are kind of showcasing and we want to threaten everyone with our numbers and a sense of entitlement. That is not true. That's not true. And one of the things I would want to ask my two colleagues here, even as they speak outside there, why is it that when the people of Mount Kenya region come out to speak, then that it is so antisocial, anti-community about other people, that it has to evoke such sentiments, that these guys are feeling they are entitled.
Could it be possible that because the region has contributed 3 presidents, that other Kenyans might be feeling concerned about that, Senator? And
you know, Wahiga, that is what I wanted to come to, because Jared says that we have a history of never voting outside our block or for anyone outside our block. Indeed, I want to assure my colleagues here and Kenyans watching that there is no other more democratic people than the people of Mount Kenya region. For the times when we have voted for those candidates, it's because a candidate whom we thought was good to win, and indeed they won at that particular time. Look at the time when we voted for Moi Kibaki, and we did, to the man, he won. When we voted for Uhuru, he won. And that is how it has been. But there are times before 1992 when we have also had to vote for Moi, and we did. And that is how it is. So according to our thinking, the way we perceive things and the way we know we need to survive, if a candidate is good enough, and I want to assure you, Wahiga, we already have dialogue. We know that there's a possibility that we would have to team up and support another candidate as the people of Mount Kenya region to be president, and maybe we occupy one of the prime positions also for our community to be within that negotiating table. So what we are saying is that having that kind of dialogue is not being either, one, tribal, two, it is not about being selfish, as my brother Kostani says. You know, this is a game of numbers. And when Jared, when those members meeting yesterday, the governors, when they were talking about our numbers, it is not simply because Justin Muturi comes from the Embu community. Indeed, when we count the Mount Kenya region, Embu is an integral part of Mount Kenya region. And anyone thinking that we would be talking about a regional discussion that excludes all the others who are not there, that is Keretu Murungi, Wambora, and Kimemia, and even probably ourselves in Kiambu, definitely we would be thinking wrongly. We would be rightfully having dialogue as a community, as a region, like every other region. But that does not mean that we intend either to rubbish the wishes of the other communities. We are doing that so that we can be neat, we can have our issues on the table. When we meet with the rest of the communities, we'll be saying how then best can we merge all our interests, including yours, and we can have good national discourse that takes care of our own people and your people. Okay. That's our approach.
You've had a good chance to respond. Honorable Kostani, you can come in. Vincent Ngetich is concerned. I think he's a UDA supporter. He says it's one of the top 3 parties in the country. It's the youngest, not the smallest. I don't know if you're responding to.
They only have one member of parliament.
They only have one member. He said smallest party in the world. I don't know, Kostani, where you want to begin. A lot has been said around these tables.
Well, I think Jared is being a bit cheeky because he's a very good friend of mine. No matter how young and how small a party is, we have made a big impact in the politics of this country, and we're just beginning. We're just beginning, and the reason why we are causing everybody to start sitting down and having a discussion is because we have a super economic approach to the issues that we face as Kenyans. We have said that we are going to adopt the bottom-up model, which is resonating well with the people. And that is why whenever you go for any political meeting, you will certainly spot a wheelbarrow.
Allow me to interrupt you. I don't know why Senator Matangi is really smiling. I don't know that he's concerned. He knows he was a Jubilee lawmaker for UDA.
You read my mind, but I'm waiting for him to finish.
I have a question for him before he carries on that.
You know, I mean, that's what Wahiga, we have to be honest. Because it is okay for my brother, Kostani, to join UDA and be a member of UDA at the right time. For all practical purposes, as he sits here and speaks, he's a member of Jubilee. And until such a time when he disowns Jubilee and resigns and goes for an election, he's still a member of Jubilee. And so this baby...
Let him carry on, because I need to bring in...
This baby that they've been talking about is an illegitimate baby.
You know, Wamatangi knows what happened to us in Jubilee. We were literally told, pack and go. You are not needed here. And because we didn't want to put up a fight, we decided to take a walk. So I think Jubilee should not claim ownership of us. They gave us, they opened the gate for us to walk out, and indeed we have. We have stopped our contributions to Jubilee. We are sending our contributions to an outfit called the Hustler Narrative, and we will eventually send that money to UDA. That is the money we were sending to Jubilee. You can see now I'm holding a UDA pen. I have a UDA notebook. We never saw any of it from Jubilee.
Hold that a little bit. Let the camera.
Yeah, we never saw this from Jubilee. This is a UDA notebook.
My goodness.
This is a UDA pen.
You know, they didn't
with the little money that UDA has, the smallest party in the world. I've not even seen
copies from your colleagues here.
I will give Jared, and I don't want to give Wamatangi because he'll be fired the following day. So really, we need to accept that the new kid on the block is the kid that is talked about. You know, from where I come from, one senior citizen once told me, if you are in a political game and you are not part of the discussion whenever there's a discussion, then you are in the wrong, you're not being felt. But because whenever there's a discussion, there's this discussion about UDA. Coming back to what Senator Wamatangi has said, is indeed, there is nothing wrong, and I said this earlier when I began Wahiga, there is nothing wrong with members of one community meeting. Even us, we've had members from Mount Kenya region, they've had a meeting with His Excellency, the Deputy President, to discuss on what plans he has to revive the economy and what they will go and tell their people that will resonate with them, that UDA will do once in power. And we can see that already the people of that region have embraced our idea. And that is why they voted the way they voted in the by-elections. So there's absolutely nothing wrong with leaders to meet. But what do they discuss? What do they discuss? What is the outcome of their discussion? What is the main agenda of their discussion? If your main agenda is our region is going to vote for somebody else who is not from our region, then that is the wrong agenda. And you can clearly see that those leaders who met yesterday, they are disturbed that the decision that the people have made in the way they voted in the by-election is the wrong decision. And that my good friend, Senator Wamatangi, doesn't want to admit. That is the agenda. This man, William Ruto, how has he gotten into Mount Kenya region? Why is it that our people are voting for William Ruto, yet we have President Uhuru Kenyatta still in leadership? That should not worry anybody, because President Uhuru Kenyatta has had his time. As Wamatangi said that they are the most democratic community. I think the people of Rift Valley are the most democratic community. We had President Moi, we supported him. President Kibaki came in, we never supported him fully, but he got our votes. We have voted for the party leader of ODM, we were once in ODM. And I think at every election, Kenyans are moving into a new dispensation. I think 2022 is going to be 70% of the vote is going to be free of tribalism. It's going to be issue-oriented.
The key issue around the 2022?
The key issue about 2022 is which political party, which presidential candidate is going to implement policies that affect the wananchi. And that is why we're saying we're going to start with the bottom up. We're not going to start, bottom up. We're not going to be top down. And that is what has made Jubilee very, very unpopular, because we've had policies, we've had priorities which are skewed to the top, not to the bottom.
Okay.
That is the biggest problem we've had. So we in UDA and those of us who believe that in 2022 we need to move to the bottom-up approach. We need to put the wananchi first and leaders behind.
Honorable Okello, I want to get your reaction to what these two leaders have said before we talk a little bit about Madaraka Day. I hear there might be a big meeting between Honorable Raila Odinga, President Uhuru Kenyatta, and some leaders from around Kisumu and counties as well. And we want to talk a bit about that, but first, I don't know if you want to...
Yes.
The state of our democracy.
Great.
Morning.
My statement on UDA being the smallest party in Africa is not premised on belittlement. But again, I can belittle it because we are in competition anyway, okay? But in the National Assembly, which has 349 members of parliament, they only have one. If you have to juxtapose that one on a percentile point to the 349, it is negligible, okay? Even your calculator will be so confused, it will be 0.00 until infinity. So that is exactly what I was talking about. I do not know about 2022. Maybe they are going to get a few more members from the Rift Valley in the year 2022, but for now they only have one. And a few, I think less than 3 ward representatives spread across the entire country of 1,500 and something members of county assemblies. So that is not even a party to discuss, okay? You need to talk about Jubilee and talk about ODM. But suffice to say, he has said, and they have consistently been with this same message, that they decamped Jubilee. Now, the Political Parties Act would be very clear, and even the Constitution, on what happens when an individual is aligned to a different political outfit other than the one that presented him into Parliament. History will vindicate my statement that in the year 1997, when the Prime Minister, then a member of Ford Kenya, differed just on the same platform as what we are seeing now with the political leaders in Ford Kenya, he decamped and faced the electorate in an ensuing by-election and came back to Parliament through a different political outfit. That was then, even before our democracy matured to this stage. But today we are, people saying we are no longer part of Jubilee, our contributions will no longer go there, it will go to a different political outfit, but they cannot take the bullet and resign so that they can face the electorate once again.
What do you think they fear?
Well, they know they will be defeated by the same Jubilee in their backyards. Otherwise, they would have taken the risk, okay?
Jared, don't forget that UDA is an affiliate of Jubilee.
UDA, since when?
It is.
We are not aware. URP was, but was wound up. But I also wanted to... I listened to my friend, Honorable Matangi, belaboring this point of the numbers. It is true, when people talk about numbers, they are putting it on a scale with others. And when the Embu community, which is one of the smallest combinations within the Mount Kenya region, present a spokesperson now to champion the plight of everybody from Central region. When they talk about numbers, you know definitely what they are talking about. But Wamatangi has said, Honorable Wamatangi has also said, that you will firstly have to organize your base before you face others.
What's the negotiating table?
I'm wondering if President Obama was to go back to his black base and negotiate with them first, and then now approach the elections in the U.S., my goodness, he was going to be thrashed early in the morning. So you do not have to certain times look at your small base first. And when you want to champion the national interest, why again retreat on a tribal cocoon base? Go national, you know, and that is the kind of president that we want, who will not be looking at the Kenya through the prism of tribal affiliations. We need to transcend tribe, Mwaura, so that we can once again develop this nation. President Suluhu, just across the borders, I'm told comes from the smallest of tribes in Tanzania, but she's now the president. If tribal, groupings would be anything to go by, then I think she would be very far away from that hierarchical order. So I'm looking for the time that this country will go beyond tribe.
Let me give
but I do not foresee it coming anytime sooner.
Let me give you a minute to also add this. Page 26 of the Standard, we can actually put that up. Mukisa Kitui, face-to-face campaigns at the coast. Is that what you're talking about? That's not
yes.
quote-unquote backyard?
Yes, but I'm not saying I will be aligned to his ideologies, because I don't even know his manifesto to begin with. But I saw him arrive from Netherlands. Was it Netherlands? Some place from the UN headquarters, and came here and declared that he wants to run for president. Yeah, Geneva, in Switzerland. Yeah, that is the only thing that I know, that he arrived and said he wants to be president. I don't know about his manifesto, I don't know his ideals, I do not know his party, I don't know anything about him. But I'm hearing, because I don't know, that he's an economist. So those are the only few things that I know about Honorable Mukisa Kitui. But Honorable Matangi said they have consistently voted rightly. That is not true. They voted Matiba, and Matiba failed. They voted Kibaki, Kibaki failed. They voted Uhuru in 2002, Uhuru failed. So some of these things you just chance. And when they chance twice since the advent of multipartyism, it has worked in their favor. So it is also correct to just say that you have burnt your fingers before. And a few times you have also won. So when Mount Kenya is retreating like they are doing now, I think drawing from the statement of President Uhuru Kenyatta at the burial of Musalia Mudavadi's mother, it is high time the nation moved to a different ethnic community to also lead this country outside the Kalenjins and Kikuyus who have permeated the systems from 1963. It is too long.
Is it high time we had a discussion around our politics that did not involve tribe?
Correct.
Wahiga, but let me just say something quick to my good friend Jared. Because especially because you've used the analogy and reference to Barack Obama, and because I know you're a good reader, and from the way you present yourself, I would recommend read a book called Game Change. and once you do, honestly, then that will give you a good perspective of how Obama organized his campaign, until when he won and compete with John McCain. And that will give you a very, very good perspective. That is precisely what he did. He had to go back to Chicago and get his game right. He started there as a community organizer and mobilizer. And that is the impetus that pushed him to the limelight for him to go and address the NDC in 04. And so just for info. But I just wanted to address one issue that has been said here by my good friend Caleb before I say something about Jared. And this is on this thing of by-elections. And I'm perturbed to see that we have all got the wrong impression, Caleb. I don't know why. One, I want to be affirmative that indeed William Ruto, the Deputy President, has got a lot of supporters within Mount Kenya region. That's true. He's been the Deputy President. He has gone out and said that he wants to be elected, and he has a following in Mount Kenya region. Raila Amolo Odinga has said he wants to be president. He's got a following in Mount Kenya region. The Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, who is the president, was elected overwhelmingly by the people of Mount Kenya region. So on the question of do we have diversity within supporters, we do. Now, what I'm concerned about is the misreading of the results of the by-election. Because, Wahiga, if you ask me, and I want to remind Caleb, right at his doorstep in Uasin Gishu, when we had the last by-election for an MC, it was won by Jubilee, within the township of Uasin Gishu. And why wasn't that
we were supporting that
and Caleb, that is exactly where I wanted you to come. That it boils down to largely the candidate you front. And if you front a candidate who is good, who knows how to go about his campaign, he will win. So you won in Rorie, in Nyandarua. That is good. In Juja, it was won by Pep, you know, Moses Kuria's outfit. And there were reasons and many lessons to learn for Jubilee. That is a fact that we have to own, that indeed there were errors, there were issues, there are things that people must talk about when we are approaching campaigns and by-elections. But that does not mean that either one, Jubilee is irreparably unpopular, or either that the leadership of Jubilee, led by His Excellency the President, that they don't have the power that is within Mount Kenya region to win by elections. That will be proven very
Why do you think there have been so many miscalculations? You've said it's about the person you know.
I'll answer that, Wahiga, but let me first make my point. So I wanted first to talk about political campaigns the way they are. And these two gentlemen have been out there in that arena. I have been. And yes, you can carry your flag with an extremely popular party, but part of the equation that will ensure that you win, no matter which party you're in, and that's why we have independent candidates, Wahiga, right now in the National Assembly and in the Senate, is your own sell points, your own combination as a candidate. If you are strong, if you know your game, if you're somebody who is sellable, you know how to campaign, then you take it. And so some of those errors were there, and now I come to your question. Then why have been there so many miscalculations? There have been miscalculations. Those miscalculations must be corrected because, one, Jubilee has got a mandate to steer this country until 2022 when we go to the by-election. And we cannot do that erratically. We have to get our act right when it comes to leadership, when it comes to by-elections, when it comes to the continuity of delivery of that vision until 2022. That has got to be, and there are no apologies to make to anyone, even within the party, who has been wrong. We are sitting down and agreeing, you are wrong, correct it. If you can't fit, out. And that is how we are going to have it. Now, lastly, let me comment then finally on what... Yes, on what Jared said on
Caleb Kositani says it's too late.
And your candidature as president
for cleaning up the act. That's why he said, Ohiga, up to 2022, we have the mandate of the people of Kenya to make sure that our house is clean, that we deliver. After 2022, game is open. If Caleb wants to come to Jubilee, he can come. If anyone wants to go, and that is why I would concur with what Jared first said, that we have an extremely immobile and unuseful enforcement system of law. Because Caleb would not be saying what he's saying and waving a UDA notebook here this morning if we had an effective law, if we had mechanisms of law that work. Because what that would mean is that Caleb tomorrow would not be a member of parliament for Soy. That's what it would mean. But you see, because we have an inept system.
So you're concerned about the status of the man sitting next
to you. Actually, I was amused. I don't know whether you saw that in between when the argument was raised again by Jared, Honorable Jared, he said that now again Jubilee and UD are cousins.
He walked back on his
he said that they have some, some connection, some connection of sorts. And that's what I'm saying. Eventually, I think for good order, Wahiga, we have to clean up our political system. And I would urge my good friend Caleb, as they build UDA when that time comes, and that should be from 2022 onwards, they have to build a party based on ideals, ideology, policy, a constitution, not on hype, not on personality, because that is why you have all the problems that we're having today, that you find that because all these parties are based on personalities, when personalities disagree, then you don't have a party anymore.
Does that include Jubilee?
No, I mean...
that is Jubilee he's talking about.
This gentleman sitting next to me was the deputy party leader of Secretary General of Jubilee. So he can answer that question much more better than me. And if the SG himself, the Secretary General, is here this morning, saying that now he sings the song of another party and showing a notebook for another party. And he is he has been the SG. Then what does that tell you about personality?
Why do you think they haven't left officially? Why
I mean, it's because one, you know, he still has to mind about his wallet. You know, I mean, because
he's actually showing the notebook on TV, right?
But the reason why he cannot make it real is one, you know, he still have to mind that how will his bank account look like tomorrow, because he will not have a salary. Number two, then he has to go and face the people of Soy. And people will ask questions at that time. They'll not ask about UD, they'll ask about performance.
We need to take that break. 30-second comment from both of you.
You know, let me tell Senator Wamatangi and my good friend, Honorable Jared, that I have no fear at all. If I were to go to Soy today, I would come and I would be elected unopposed on a UDA.
Do it.
That one I would tell them. But why would I do it when we have UDA is an affiliate of Jubilee, and I don't. I can see that. I hope Wamatangi, if Jubilee will ever hold a serious meeting, parliamentary group meeting, will be given the microphone to say the things he's saying here, to tell Jubilee leadership that they need to change, they need to wake up. But to me, it's a bit late. Majority of Jubilee leaders or sympathizers are now have been kicked out. The minority are left with the party, and that is why it can't even win in an MCA's seat. It can't even come at a close second. Okay. So I think Jubilee is a spent force. It's like ice cream left out in the sun.
Okay. We'll talk more after the break. You had something to say. We need to take that break, yes. Honorable Kello.
Right. We have watered down the democratic gains made by political parties. It is true that political parties played a very important role towards giving us this democratic space that we currently enjoy. But because we do not see political parties as those vehicles that need to deliver to the Kenyan people, since the year 2002, we have always had a different political outfit, even though the same president and same deputy president are aligned to different political parties. I haven't seen any party so consistent like ODM within this nation, and that is an absurdity. You asked him a very important question, my friend Caleb. Why can't they resign? These people are in Jubilee government, but are constantly fighting the same government that they represent, so that at the end of the day, they will parade to Kenyans that, you know, these are failures, President Uhuru Kenyatta, as if Dr. William Ruto is not part of that government. But that is where they are heading to. We know, and every Kenyan knows, that when the time will come and a report card will be written, the failures of President Uhuru Kenyatta will be directly attributed to the failures of his boss. What is his name? Dr. William Samoei Ruto.
The deputy president.
Yeah, that is why they do not want
the handshake partner.
Because, well, ODM hasn't a representative in Jubilee's government, not even a single cabinet secretary in Jubilee's government, not even a single principal secretary. So we know where the blames will be at the right time. But in a democratic society, you would have expected them to resign so that they fight this government from outside, not from within. That is called implosion, and that is not acceptable.
Implosion, my goodness. Okay, I have many questions, but we're going to have to take that break. Let's take it now. When we come back, we take a look at your feedback, and we talk a little bit about next week's public holiday, Madaraka Day, happening in Kisumu, and lots of activities around that. We need to talk a bit about that. And then we need to talk about the National Prayer Breakfast, which is set to kick off from 8 o'clock. Remember, we'll be live from that location. So you need to keep it here. In fact, I'm told we actually have some live pictures now. I'm sure as people begin streaming in, that's right, from the Central Business District, Senate grounds, I believe. There's a garden there, and that's where this dome has been set up for those prayers that will be led by President Uhuru Kenyatta. It's a hybrid event. About 100 or so guests in person, but I've already seen a link that has been shared that others will attend virtually. And this is hosted by the two speakers of the bicameral parliament. And so we will continue following what's happening there, even as we carry on with our discussion here in studio. You're watching Daybreak. Let's take that short break. We'll be right back. And we're glad you're still staying with us. Thanks for keeping it Daybreak. We've been live from 6 o'clock, news, but now we're talking about the state of the nation, the state of politics, even as we count down to the start of the 18th edition of the National Prayer Breakfast happening Nairobi CBD on Parliament grounds. They're just adjacent to it, actually. And we had shown you live pictures a bit earlier, and we'll continue to follow what's happening there until the function officially begins at 8 o'clock, led by President Uhuru Kenyatta, hosted by both speakers of the bicameral parliament. And we have a team there that will be giving us updates shortly. But we are also seeing lots of your feedback to this discussion. Remember, 22422 is the SMS line, and the hashtag is Daybreak. This is what Kenyans are saying this morning. Omar Bond says, the day Kenyan politicians move beyond our people, etc., we will have achieved political maturity. We don't reason, think, or vote alike just because we share a common geographic location or even language. Mnatuelewa? Omar Bond asking that question this morning. Okay. Jacob Matlala says, listening and watching how leaders blot political sheets, what good have they done that they deserve 2022 stakes? Dropping numbers is dangerous. Calculus, regional cocoonism is dangerous to nation building and heritage. Okay. Dismas Mokua says, good morning. Kenyan politics is dominated by powerful politicians who use political parties as merely special purpose vehicles. They don't have philosophies or ideologies. All so-called Hustler Nation members who move to whichever party the deputy president decides. Same holds for all parties. Keep sending them in. I'll also be checking your SMSs shortly. Honorable Kostani, I think we were now on to you. You had just given a brief comment with Honorable Okello. Now I can give you a chance to both substantively speak. Kostani, you've been in this game for a long time. That is politics. You've witnessed previous transitions. What is it about what we are seeing now? Look at the front page of the Standard, leaders coming together saying, we're holding talks, we're going to have a plan that may resonate with what you've seen in the past. Is this new, or have you seen this before?
Well, Wahiga, I've been in politics since 1988. That is when I first took a voter's card and voted then it was Eldoret North constituency. So I've seen the transition from President Moi to President Kibaki and President Kibaki to President Uhuru. What I would advise leaders is make your own decisions. Do not expect somebody else to make a decision for you. It's very important that you respect whoever is in power, but when somebody's term is expiring, or rather coming to an end, constitutional term is coming to an end, do not depend on that person to give you guidance. It's as history has always shown us that in 2002, we expected President Moi knew it all. We expected that he had a solid plan for his succession, but he eventually unveiled President Uhuru Kenyatta, and we voted for him to the man because we knew President Moi knew it, and we ended up in the opposition. And it was a learning point for us at that time. And I think the same mistakes seem to be you saw how President Kibaki managed his succession. He was mute. He never, ever tried to guide or even show a sign that he was favoring so-and-so or against so-and-so. And that is how it came in smooth that President Uhuru and Kenyans made their own judgment. From what we are seeing now is that clearly those in the leadership are showing a lot of hatred, a lot of vibe against the deputy president and trying to guide the process. But the deputy president, being the man he is, a go-getter, a man who has never waited for it to be brought to him on the table, he's always looked for it from the people, has gone to the people. He has come up with the bottom-up approach. He has come up with a policy. He has held ground despite all the negative waves that have been and statements that have been made against him. And that is why I think he has endeared himself to the people. He has come up with a hustler narrative, which is resonating well. The people have captured it. The people have owned it. The wheelbarrow, we were being told, is a useless thing, is a taka-taka. That is now the wheelbarrow that is causing waves and causing people to come together and say, hey, we also have a plan. And that is why I think our politics is headed to a very good place, whereby you saw the tweet by, I think it was Bond, where he says he wishes to see us politicians move away from this my people, my region thing. And that is where, and Senator Matangi has said it, coming from Mount Kenya, that the deputy president enjoys massive support there. And he has said it himself. I hope it will not land him in trouble after this show. So we want a country, an environment where people are free. Let leaders make decisions. And let businessmen also make decisions. We have seen under this Jubilee administration, Wahiga, and it's a fact, businessmen are harassed because they are believed to not to be pro-system, they are believed to be pro-somebody. We've seen people who have come up with manufacturing industries that have employed over 300-400 Kenyans. You are being hit by serious KRA demands, and those are the tricks that were used during the KANU regime, and that is why KANU ended up fizzling out to become a party in the periphery, a party that was ruling.
Tell me this briefly. What miscalculation do you think KANU did in 2002, now that you think back?
The miscalculation that KANU did was one: we never allowed people to exercise their political freedom freely. We were never allowed to decide who we wanted to succeed President Moi. President Moi is the one who decided. And I think we were still young, we were still old school, we were very loyal to the system, and we said, fine, maybe President Moi has a plan. In the Kalenjin community where I come from, I had told you this earlier when we were on the break, we always say the he-goat knows everything. So we took the President Moi as the he-goat that time, and he knew everything. But eventually we learned that it's not always right that the he-goat knows everything. So I think it is important for Kenyans, anybody, as a politician, break away from being held by anybody, exercise your freedom, and we want to ask the system, please let politicians move freely. Let politicians discuss things freely.
Okay.
Let them be open whenever they're talking. Let them not be looking back and saying, now, I have said this, how do I get home? Maybe somebody will wait for me on the way. Somebody will come with the KRA demands. I will be charged with a fake corruption case. Let us exercise. Let us allow politicians. And once we allow that, once you allow politicians to think freely, release these governors from the anti-corruption cases that are hanging around them, and you will see Kenyans move in ways that will shock you, and then we will have proper leaders who will propel this country forward.
Honorable Okello, come in. I can give you a minute to respond to what has been said before we talk about page 6 of the Standard, and we'll be pulling that up shortly.
Well, it is interesting listening to my friend Honorable Caleb showering accolades to the Deputy President, for having very solid policies, hard worker, you know, all those. He's still the Deputy President. Let that not be lost on us. With all those, very rosy adjectives around the Deputy President, you would expect this country to be miles and miles ahead of its economic prowess. But see, we are ditched.
Remember, he's the deputy, not the president.
Economic dungeons. I mean, this is the principal assistant to the president, not by law. In fact, had it not been for the Constitution and the way he's treating the president disdainfully, he would be home. And that is why Moi managed to, be around for 24 years. So the same Constitution that they never supported is now helping protect them, even when they go against the Political Parties Act. But anyhow, they promised us many things. In fact, it is the Deputy President who promised us 1 million jobs, several stadia to be strewn across this country, and many others that we will be unleashing at the right time. For now, it is too early. Kenyans will forget. But we are looking at our politics as a leverage towards economic progress. That is why there is this cutthroat competition during electioneering period, because we have stratified, we have segmented this country to the effect that when I ascend to power, that government will be full of Luos. Today, the Public Service Commission will tell you that 67% of public service jobs in government, 67% are held by 2 communities. These 2 communities, if at all the accolades would be anything to go by, you would expect them to work so much in tandem and in unison with the government of the day that this country will be comparable to the United States of America. But we are still what Trump would call a shithole nation, just because of the mismanagement.
Mind your language on that.
Yeah, well, that is why I had to say who did it. Yes. Yeah, it is not mine. I mean, I'm a very modest guy. You know that. I'm very decent in my talks. But, you know, blame it on him, but that is where we are as a country. So if we are going to transcend those cocoons that we have talked about since morning, then we will have a president who unites this country as one. And you will not hear that out of 45 tribes, only 2%, only 2 communities are holding 67% of public service jobs. That is why Kenyans go into violence, because they know once they have lost, they've lost it for the next 5 years. If that can be corrected, and these are some of the things that the BBI was trying to look into. Firstly, by taking money to the counties, 35% of monies are meant to go to the counties, so that even though you may not get the president of your choice, that money is an entitlement. It is anchored in law. You will have it at the end of the day, so that you can effectively run your own affairs down there. Where I come from, Mwahiga, we have consistently been neglected and sidelined by the successive regimes. When you get past Kericho, then you'd think you're in a different country because of the neglect. And when we ask about this, we are told that we've been playing bad politics. How do we play bad politics when the president is elected to take charge of a whole nation? Why? Because of certain individuals' mistakes or dislikes would warrant a whole community to suffer. These are the things that we need to confront. You go to northeastern part of Kenya, for instance, they will be asking you, how is Kenya, when they hear you are from Nairobi? These people pay their taxes, these people cast their ballots and vote certain times the people who end up being in power. But at the end of the day, they do not get what is due to them. So let us see how we are going to correct these ills that have perpetuated our systems. Briefly, it may take long, but yes, we will get there.
Briefly, I want a short comment, because I can see Honorable Matangi really scribbling. I think he has some really strong points he wants to bring our way.
He's right in composition.
The notebook is full.
Let's bring up page 6 of the Standard. What Raila's backyard wants from the president. Apparently, this is quoted by the Standard, Nyanza leaders and scholars are compiling a wish list to present to President Uhuru Kenyatta ahead of next week's visit to the region. Even as reports show, the head of state and his handshake partner plan a joint meeting with leaders to agree on new projects to be implemented before term ends. Page 6 of the Standard is what we're referring to. And what leaders want Uhuru to address. 1, they want him to share the business model they had in place for the revived $3 billion port. 2, revival of sugar and cotton industries. 3, implementation of some projects, including the Jomo Kenyatta Sports Complex, water connectivity of Kisumu to various other parts, Homa Bay Town, Bita, Sori, and the Migingo Island boundary issue. Let me first start, Honorable Okello, by finding out from you how much of this you're aware of. Something you're privy to, or sometimes?
Well, I'm aware that due to the rotational Madaraka Day celebrations, the next will be in Kisumu, and that is next week. We also reckon as a community and as a nation that President Uhuru Kenyatta has 1 year in office, all right? After 1 year, a new regime will come into place. We only have this budget to be read, I think in the month of June, July, and that may be just it. We do not foresee a situation where with the hyperbolic political contest next year, people will still be concentrating on the budget-making process. So a lot of things will be shrouded in mystery coming next year. There are certain things that were started, including in my constituency, there is this Ahero interchange, the one leading to Kisii and coming to Nairobi, and the other leading to Kisumu. So it is in process. I'm told the president is intending to go and just supervise the levels of work. There is the commissioning of the Uhuru Market, which was built in conjunction with the county government of Kisumu. Then the Mbita Causeway. So there are certain things that he's either going to open officially to make them start functioning, or he's going to just appraise himself on the levels of progress. So those are the things that I know. But as for the wish list now, it may be too late in the day to present a catalog of requests to a president 1 year in office. But I'm not saying we may not have some requests. We will. But you also have to recognize that most of them may not be complete by the time next year comes. But again, we have a very elaborate procurement process that will take 1 year to get a contractor to do anything. So all these are factors that we are alive and awake to, even as we welcome the president wholeheartedly in Kisumu. Okay. Had it not been for COVID, we would be in Kericho waiting for him, and then we walk all the way to Kisumu.
Honorable Matangi, you can now weigh in on some of the thoughts that you put there, even as we talk about Madaraka Day coming up next.
Well, maybe I could start from there. You know,
okay.
I had 1 or 2 points I'm going to raise, but I just wanted to comment on this. And I think, Wahiga, from what I was saying earlier, I don't think from where I stand that there's anything wrong with this kind of, you know, premeditated and pre-planned presentation of what the issues of a region are. Call it a wish list. Call it anything. And this is what I was talking about. I mean, within the entire of that region, there are projects, there are issues that affect those people, and that would help them. There's nothing wrong with it. I mean, how else then would you present yourself if you do not have an identified priority list that says that this is where we would be better off if you did? And Jared, some of these issues raised here, I think you would not be entirely right to say that you're not sure whether they'll be attained. Because if you look at, for example, like the port that they're talking about, it's been implemented and it's on its way to conclusion. If you look at the issue of revival of sugar and cotton industries, that's something that has been ongoing, plus others. But all I just wanted to comment to you guys that you know, when you are going to have dialogue, for example, when you have leadership that is also entrusted by Kenyans to oversee the implementation and dispersal of funds and prioritize projects, there is nothing wrong with a community or leaders presenting that kind of list. So, I mean, they better go ahead. When he comes to our region, would also be very happy to present the ones that concern the people of Mount Kenya region.
Will the president be able to visit every region? What happens to the regions where he...
I'm sure he's going to have to be visiting, and he would rather...
wait for the president
and he would rather be prepared. Well, development is ongoing, Wahiga, and you know, let me make a quick point here, and that's one of the things I wanted to raise. You see, Wahiga, we have, our politics is at 2 levels, and it is ideal everywhere. You have the ideal and you have the real. And what do you rather deal with? You know, the ideal is there in the books. It is there it is there in theorems that says this is the best, that we want to oversee a nation of all, whatever. But the real is this, and I'm glad that our constitution goes all the way to identify and indeed hail it. That's why we are told in our supreme law that celebrate your diversity, that indeed, you know, your traditions, that your ethnic background is not something to be ashamed about. And I think this is where we need to start getting to be real. Because what I would call the real of politics is what you see every day. The ideal of it is what we talk about here when you hear Caleb saying that we are building a party that is going to, you know, oversee the integration of everybody. And then when they leave here, you know, they go and hold a meeting in Soy. And they talk about, you know, our people. And you know, Wahiga, looking at what then we call the real of our politics, what happens then? How best are we, you know, placed to make sure that we deliver to our people? And I would be saying this very quickly. One, that we must admit, and Wahiga, because you're also, you know, a good scholar of this kind of thought line, and I congratulated you when I came here because you featured prominently as one of the best, you know, anchors and presenters.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, look at and study, for example, cases of success democracies and countries like Singapore, like Korea, like South Africa when Mandela came. And you will note one distinct thing about them. And I would quote, for example, like when Singapore, when Lee Kuan Yew took over after when the British were leaving that country, he was very specific. He said, we know your democracy. We know all the things that you're saying we should do, but we have the ideal for Singapore, that because of who we are, and the diversity of our country, that we are Chinese, we are Malays, we have Indians, we cannot buy your democracy wholesale the way it is. We have to blend it with who we are. And that's how we can have success. And that's what I'm saying. Even when we look at what is ideal for our country, we have to acknowledge that we are a community that is diverse with so many ethnic groupings and so on. So what is the best blend? And that is the best way we would find a realistic way to address our issues. And moving forward that way, then we would not have a problem. When Caleb says he's from Soy and he speaks Kalenjin and he represents it, we would have no problem. And trying to justify why Jared is from Luo Nyanza, and when he speaks about this wish list, he feels that he would want to justify that they should not have a wish list. That will make us neater. And it would also help us move away from like what you have heard Caleb here saying, and he's my very good friend. Talking about, trying to create a victim's persona and an atmosphere around the DP. That, he now is hatred and victimization and everyone. I mean, you would not need to do that because, the deputy president is somebody who goes out any place in this country and makes his case. So it would not be necessary to have that kind of, approach to politics. I would be saying, Wahiga, and I want you to take some homework with this. Study, for example, and I would be saying this in summary, why we have problems. Study, for example. And I hope those are problems that will feature in that discussion that will be happening at that prayer breakfast. Those are the pictures. Yeah, for example, when you see we have these signs and symbols for political parties. You had Caleb talking about the wheelbarrows. When you are growing up, you saw people and parties with hoes and elephants. Do these symbols mean a thing? And is it then the window to see what then parties stand for? Because if you ask yourself, when you grew up and you saw that Wamatangi was running or whoever was running and he has the symbol of an elephant, Allah's a hoe, Allah's the sun, the whatever, the wheelbarrow, what do they stand for, Wahiga? What do they stand for? Nothing. Zero. They mean nothing. And that is why, indeed, I would be challenging our political future, scripters, including myself. I mean, don't build parties around symbols, just to hypnotize people. Okay. You know what I mean? Because if you went to the UK and asked somebody what is the symbol of the Labour Party, I mean, they don't have a hoe or a wheelbarrow. Go and ask somebody what is the symbol for the Democratic, for the Republican Party. I mean, they don't have the sun or whatever. I mean, if what they would be showing you is the national flag. And that is what we should be building our ideology around. I think you've passed your point across quite. I want us to switch gears because I already see we now have live pictures from Parliament. I want us to focus a little bit about our values, our ideals as a nation as we focus on that national prayer breakfast. Honorable Matangi, you had said you're going to be there. I hope we won't delay you, but we still do want you to be here with us for as long as you can manage. What would you say, Honorable Kositani, is the state of the nation today? What are you excited about? What are you concerned about that you feel should form part of what will be discussed at that national prayer breakfast as a leader in this country? Well, I think as a leader in this country, one thing that needs to be prioritized at this prayer conference is the COVID-19 pandemic that is ravaging the world. And we need to pray that our government prioritizes the acquisition of vaccines so that we can vaccinate as many people as possible of our population, especially those who are 50 and above, who are the most vulnerable to this disease. The other big issue that is there is the issue of unemployment, that we need actually to pray that we get to put in place proper policies so that we may be able to create jobs for our youth. The third issue is the issue of the economic situation in the country, and partly hugely caused by many businesses, many jobs have been lost. And if I gave you my phone, Wahiga, to answer all the calls that I get, maybe 70% of the calls I get from across the country, it's not from the people of Soy only, are people who are suffering. They're asking for a little penny here just to have a meal for the day. And these are people who had
good jobs. They were doing good businesses, but because of the situation that we're in, things are not working well. So there are a lot of Kenyans who are suffering. Rent distress, they can't pay up their loans, they can't feed their families. People have had even to change schools for their children. Do you know what that means? So the problems that Kenyans have are really, really, really major. We need to focus on those. And maybe the final thing that we really need is that as leaders, as those who occupy positions, we need to pray that we prioritize the issues that affect Kenyans. We tone down on our bravado and arrogance, and really come down as leaders to sit down and discuss issues that affect Kenyans. Where we are right now, if I were the president, I would have called a meeting of all members of parliament, all senators, and let's say, let us discuss what can we do between now and besides politics, to cushion Kenyans from the sufferings that they are going through.
Do you need to wait for the president?
He's the leader.
You sit in the majority.
If I call a meeting, Jared will not come. He will have to go and seek permission from his party leader. And Wamatangi here will not come because you can see he has a problem with the wheelbarrow slogan. So and Jared is enjoying his orange. I don't. What was the slogan for Jubilee? The handshake, which I think now is only one handshake. So I think we really need to get serious on the issues that we discuss, because when we interact with people down there, they see us leaders as very mean people, very heartless. We are just there enjoying ourselves, yet they are suffering. So I think we really need to start thinking. And if we don't, then there's going to be a revolution in 2022.
At the ballot, I believe.
At the ballot.
Honorable Okello, I know there are revolutions. I was very interested. Honorable Okello, what are the prayers of the people of Nyando this morning? You know, you are their representative, if you'll be there physically or logging in. What are their prayers this morning?
Well, firstly, as Christians, we know the Bible is replete with situations where endemics or pandemics did occur. People prayed, and there was a Passover of such problems on the people. So it is time that our nation also rallied itself behind real prayers, not sideshows, you know. We just have to go down and ask God to intervene on many issues that have bedeviled us. As a nation, before I come to Nyando, we had the locusts that invaded our farms. That has consequently informed the hunger that we have today. We had floods, not just in Nyando, which is quite perennial, but even places that have never seen floods in their lives had flooding this time around. We have, you know, we had now this COVID-19, which came from China, and it is still ravaging nations, and Kenya is not any different. So we are fighting so many problems at the same time. The economic gurus, including professors in Oxford University, Cambridge, Harvard, and many places, did foresee a very difficult economic situation in all nations. If that could be foreseen in the UK, US, and other European nations, then you can only imagine how Kenya would be suffering economically, because we rely a lot on our exports to these bigger nations. And when they cannot buy our stuff, then you can imagine what happens to us here at home. Now, Nyando has been confronting two major challenges. One is the backflow of Lake Victoria. We are told there is a dam that is being erected somewhere in Uganda, and the other one in Ethiopia. So water is not flowing freely to the Nile and other places. So the water is now coming back and reclaiming certain parts across the shores of Lake Victoria. And many homes have since relocated because they are marooned in water. 6 of my schools within Nyando constituency, 4 primary schools and 2 secondary schools, had to relocate to higher grounds. And that calls for lots of money to start building afresh. So that is one major issue that we are dealing with in the constituency. And secondly, now the common floods that has been part and parcel of Nyando constituency since time immemorial. There have been attempts to firstly erect this dam in Korusoin, which is part of the schedule around the president's visit. So we hope that enough funds will be channeled towards that. And then the building of dikes along the banks of River Nyando. It was started many years back, but 10 kilometers before it terminated at Singida Beach into the lake, the project stopped for whatever reason. So we have been pursuing the national government to complete this 10-kilometer stretch. And then at the mouth of the river, getting into the lake, there's a delta that has since been formed and is also creating a blockade of this water getting into the lake. So as Nyando, we are confronting many, many problems. And you know, when floods come, it sweeps away the farm produce. So that also presents another hunger. We did present a petition to the national government to give us some food items and non-food items, because in that situation, people cannot feed themselves. But seemingly this government is also broke, just like was predicted by the economic gurus. So up to now, we haven't seen any food supplies going into Nyando. Fortunately, the Red Cross, which has done a splendid job over time, did take some mosquito nets. Because with floods, you expect breeding grounds for mosquitoes and consequently malaria. So Red Cross has been on the ground trying to provide some of these non-food essentials to my people. So our prayer will be that this flooding issue be addressed, that COVID, apart from the vaccine, you know, vaccine is man-made.
So I can bring in Matangi. Go ahead.
Yes, yes, vaccine is man-made. But you know, God in heaven has a way of moving away this corona into the ocean, and it will be the end of it. So let us pray that COVID will not be part of humankind. Let it go, because many pandemics have also come before and gone, including Ebola. So God has that capacity, just like the late president of Tanzania was saying. Let us just pray. So let us pray that COVID will be wiped out the face of the earth.
Okay. Honorable Matangi, I think I can also give you a chance to weigh in on the same as we count down to the official start of this National Prayer Breakfast. And a concern by some Kenyans, like I actually saw some on social media saying that Kenyans should hold their own prayer breakfast because the parliament has let them down. What would you say?
Sure.
So, and Caleb Kostan is nodding to that. I don't know whether he's
in
also
agreement.
going to boycott. I don't know.
You know, Wahiga, it's like that Kenyan picked my mind, because that's exactly what I was going to say. But before I say it, although I don't come from Nyanza, and where my brother comes from, but you know, I would comment on it, Wahiga. Just because of how I find sometimes as leaders we take our sweet time too long to act on certain issues. Because if you look at, for example, how long since you became a knowledgeable young man, Wahiga, have you heard about flooding in Nyando? It has been
the term perennial.
Throughout. And you ask yourself, what is it that we do about it? You know, and it recurs. Every time when there's rainfall, you expect that there will be deaths in Budalangi. And it has been consistent. It has been, I mean, it's like a season. I mean, it comes, it's like day and night. And you ask yourself, what do leaders do about it? You know, I would have loved to hear my good brother speak about, you know, because I visit Kisumu. Sometimes I wonder, if supposing I was a leader in Kisumu, what are some of the things I would be saying? You know, look at a problem like the problem of hyacinth. I wonder why, for example, you know that this is the livelihood of so many people, and you let hyacinth spread across the entire lake from this end to the other end, that you find that those mothers who make a living there selling those fish will be jobless the following day. You know, some of these things I would be saying to our leaders there, and I don't want to get into the details of it because we have leaders from that section. But sometimes when I visit that region, I have issues and concerns. That does not mean that there are no concerns for my people. You know, in Mount Kenya region.
What if
there are very many, and I would be telling you. But the reason why I said I think that Kenyan picked my mind, because I would be telling you, Wahiga, that if you asked any Kenyan anywhere, do you know what you want? Do you know? Whether it is a hawker, whether it is a driver, whether at whatever level, ask them, do you know where we would want to be as a country? What is good for us? I want to tell you profoundly that every Kenyan would tell you in clarity, in crystal clear terms, what they know and where they expect that would be. But what is the problem? And that is what I would be alluding to, what that viewer was talking about. Our problem is our leadership. It is our politics. It is the structure that has been laid that the people follow, people who are not willing to lead them where they want to go. And that's why you find, Wahiga, we have had consistent abdication of responsibility by leaders throughout. Because ask yourself, which government ever came into being without a manifesto? Which? From NAC in 2002. Yeah, when we had the Rainbow Coalition, what sold them to us at that particular time, other than the multi-party democracy allure, was that they were going to do real things. Then from there we had all the other parties that have come up to today. And as Mheshimiwa Jared was speaking about this so-called new kid on the block, ask what this new kid is talking about. They're also talking about roles and things that they will do. But do they ever get done? And that is why I have been consistent on this, that I think the biggest letdown to attainment and achievement of the ideals and vision of the people of this country has been the political leadership of this country. There is an absolute rift, a chasm that separates our reality and the reality of the people and where they want to go. And unless that is resolved, and it can only be resolved backwards by the people of this country again. So when you go to the ballot box, Wahiga, and I believe this is where civic education should start, to our people, that we have to say to them, when you come impeaching governors, when you go to impeach speakers of county assemblies every day, what are you saying? You're saying that in the first place, you have been making consistent problems. And do you know what, Wahiga? If there was a law that allowed impeachment of members of parliament, this country would just be dealing with the law of impeachment and nothing else. There would be an impeachment every day of members of parliament, of even senators. Because you know why? We have now a trend that has been inbuilt in the system, that you just get elected, you are passed and off the blocks, then on your own. Mm-hmm. And you can do anything you like until a few days. And then you can now talk about these formations that we were talking about earlier. They are there. Those formations will tell you the story. It's now about harvest time. And so people now will have to start dressing up and shaping up.
Let me allow our viewers to note that the new CJ, Martha Koome, has just arrived at Parliament buildings to attend the National Prayer Breakfast. I believe this is actually one of her first official national events to be attending in her new role as the new Chief Justice of the Republic of Kenya. So she's just arrived there at Parliament buildings and, of course, representing one arm of government. And so we'll continue monitoring the arrivals here, even as the President will lead the country today in these prayers hosted by the two speakers of the bicameral Parliament. Okay, I've been informed that we need to take a short break. Let's do that. Then we come back, continue bringing you live images from Parliament, even as we wrap up the discussion that we're having here in studio. And you can keep weighing in. 22422 is our SMS line, #Daybreak. We'll be right back with live coverage of this National Prayer Breakfast.